Welcome in, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order now. It is 7 p.m. on June 2nd, and this is a public meeting of the City of Portland Police Accountability Commission's Subcommittee on Research. My name's Christine Moses, and I will be your facilitator this evening. If the Spanish language interpreters, Manuel and Thalia, can please give the information on Spanish language interpretation now? That would be very helpful.
Muy buenas tardes a todos. Gracias por estar en esta reunión de rendición de cuentas de la Comisión de la Policía de la Ciudad de Portland. Queremos darle unas instrucciones básicas a todos. Si usted está en su computadora, puede ver en la pantalla de abajo que hay unos iconos. Usted va a empezar de izquierda a derecha por el micrófono. Va a ver usted lo que es la cámara. Luego va a haber participantes, seguidamente la burbuja del chat. Sucesivamente, en el penúltimo, usted va a ver el icono de un globo o un mundo en el cual usted debe presionar, hacerle clic. Usted debe de apagar el audio original y debe de seleccionar ya sea inglés o español. Si usted lo quiere oír en inglés, siempre debe dejar el original apagado. Y si prefiere español, seleccione español. Esas son las recomendaciones. Mantenga su micrófono en mute, apagado, si usted no está haciendo uso de la palabra. Gracias. Done.
Thank you so very much. The city also offers ASL interpretation, which is being provided by Andrea and Amanda. You can pin their video feed if that is helpful to you. Finally, the closed captioning is turned on in Zoom as another means of assistance. Please note that this is an automatic captioning service and is not always accurate. The city supports access to meetings of the Police Accountability Commission and can provide other language support as well. Please email in advance of future public meetings, either as a response to a public meeting notice or directly to policeaccountability@portlandoregon.gov to ask for other assistance, access assistance, including interpretation in other languages. This meeting is a public meeting subject to the City of Portland Administrative Code and the Oregon State Law and is being recorded. For this meeting, the chat function is enabled for the commission members to communicate with each other. Members of the public will be able to ask questions using the Zoom's Q&A feature. As the commissioners are presenting and or discussing things, if attendees have questions, please feel free to submit them through the Q&A. We hope to use this feature to help guide our conversations during the meeting and future meetings and agenda topics. We'd like to be clear that not all questions will be answered during the meeting, but if answered, both the question and the answer will be visible to you and will become part of the meeting record. To access this feature, just click on the Q&A icon in the middle of your screen. May I have the next slide, please? I would like to give our land acknowledgement to the Chinook, the Clatskanie, the Kalapuya, and the Malala peoples, as well as the Clackamas and the Multnomah peoples who are not represented on this map. Those last two nations having been eliminated in the genocide of the creation of this country. They're now part of the Grand Ronde tribal nation, the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde, and still represent so much bounty, so much wisdom, and so much knowledge in the lands upon which we live. So we give our deep respects and abiding respect to the people of this land. Thank you so much. Next slide, beautiful. And so I would like to pass this over to the co-chairs to discuss the timeline here.
Sure. Hi. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Moses. I appreciate it. Hi, I'm Livy Lloyd. I use she, her pronouns. I am a co-chair of the full PAC, and I am temporarily co-chairing this subcommittee until a new co-chair is um, uh, approved by the full PAC. All right, so the commission is currently in the fact-finding phase of work, which is expected to go until July. We'll be hearing from key stakeholders. We will be identifying barriers to accountability in Portland presently, and we will be examining systems of accountability and recommendations from experts. We'll also be doing community engagement work during this phase, and then in future phases, we will be developing the parameters for the new police accountability system. We will, as a commission, present that to the City Council in 2023 for their consideration and approval. Thank you. Today is the first meeting of the subcommittee on research. We expect to have 4 meetings approximately. I think it's helpful to know. Next Monday, June 6th, will be a full commission meeting with Commissioner Maps. The other subcommittee, which is the Subcommittee on Community Engagement Events, will begin meeting on June 13th. And the full meeting calendar is at www.portland.gov/police-accountability if you'd like to see more. And can I get the next slide? Thank you. All right, this slide is the current project plan for the fact-finding phase of the PAC's work. It's not the agendas, it's not set in stone. It's really more to communicate and help members of the public understand how the commission is going to get, from here to there. And we are specifically focusing on identifying areas of agreement among commission members as to barriers to accountability in the current system, and then looking at best fits and best practices from Portland and other jurisdictions, and looking at suggestions to consider from experts. And additionally, we'll also be taking public comment and meeting with key stakeholders. All right, today's meeting is in the green box with the purple outline there. GC brainstorms other jurisdictions and experts, begins research. So that is us today.
Thank you so very much, Commissioner Lavisa. Appreciate taking us through that timeline. I would like us to review the community agreements. So I'm going to allow you to read these to yourself, and we'll do that slowly. And the next slide, please. Thank you so much. Next slide, please. So, Commissioner Lavisa, I would like for you today to ground us in what we are going to be doing today, if you don't mind.
Sure. All right. Well, something that we've historically done is at the first meeting of the subcommittee, we go around and do introductions. Can be useful for the subcommittee and also useful for introducing ourselves to any members of the public who might be with us in the audience. We'll be reviewing the mandate of this subcommittee and what our objectives are and what our deliverables are. And we'll be having some brainstorming discussions about, we'll be taking a look at some other jurisdictions that we already have brainstormed previously, asking for more suggestions. And we'll also be doing a quick discussion on historical recommendations in Portland for police accountability systems within the city, which we'll talk about more a little bit later. And then we'll also, of course, have time for public comment.
Thank you so much. If we can stop sharing, and I would love to ask people to introduce themselves. And so Commissioner Angie, if you don't mind, would you start us off and then popcorn over to the next person?
Good afternoon / evening. My name is Angie Tomlinson, and I go by she, her pronouns. So sorry, I'm really tired tonight. I'm trying not to be. It's really good to see everybody and get started with this work. And I wanted to thank the co-commissioners for and the facilitators and staff for taking the time to put together a really thorough agenda and help lead us to where we need to be. So thank you very much. And I will pass it to Commissioner Dan Handelman.
So thank you. Good evening. I'm Dan Handelman. I use he, him pronouns, and I am a member of the commission. I also prefer to have the facilitators call on people, so I'm going to ask that somebody else call on the next person. Thank you.
Commissioner Debbie.
Hi, I'm Debbie Iona, and a member of the commission and of this subcommittee. And I will call on, Commissioner Seemob Husseini.
Hello, everybody. Greetings. My name is Seemob Husseini. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am a co-chair for the overall commission for this fact-finding phase, and am here in observation for this subcommittee. And I will pass it to Commissioner Glenn. If Commissioner Glenn is not ready at the moment, I can pass it to Commissioner. Okay, Commissioner Glenn, you ready?
Yes, I'm
Yes.
sorry, I didn't have my speaker on.
You're good.
Yes, this is Sophia Glenn. I'm one of the commissioners on the Police Accountability Commission, and I welcome all, and I'm happy to be here. I don't know who's next. Let's see, is there someone else who hasn't spoken yet? If not, I'll turn this back over to our facilitator.
Commissioner Faith hasn't yet, I think.
Oh,
Thanks, everyone. Sorry about that. Hi, I'm Faith Aiken. I am a co-chair for the full commission during this fact-finding phase, and I am also here to observe.
I think we lost our facilitator, so I wonder if co-chair Lori can lead us.
Lisa, I think you're.
Sure. I kind of already introduced myself, but I'll do it again. Hi, I'm Lavisa Lloyd. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a member of the commission. I'm a co-chair of the full commission, and I'm just really excited to be here with everyone to do some research work, because there's some really good work to be done here.
Thank you, Lisa. So we'll go on to the next item on the agenda, which is the review portion. And I'll pass it back to Lavisa to talk about the 3 items that we're reviewing here as well.
Thank you. All right. So as most of you know, the PAC adopted an agenda and scope document in our most recent phase of work, and it defined this phase, the fact-finding phase, And this phase has outcomes. And you can see the top two outcomes are, well, okay. So outcome one, identify how police are not being held accountable and other problems in the current system. That's the barriers document that the full PAC is working on. Then the highlighted outcome you'll see says suggestions to consider from experts and other cities. That is the task of the research subcommittee. And then I think we can skip down to, yeah, it leads to two documents, areas of agreement on best practices from other jurisdictions and areas of agreement on suggestions to consider from experts, academics, etc. All right, so the
Sorry.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So when the subcommittees were created, in the mandate of the subcommittee, it says what you see in the upper part of the slide, which includes what those two documents are, as Co-Chair Lloyd just indicated, areas of agreement on best practices from other jurisdictions, which is parts of other systems which are already in effect and which are working, which this commission likes and would like to see replicated in Portland. And the second is areas of agreement on suggestions to consider from outside experts, academic research, et cetera. That's how that was defined in that document. There are a lot of experts, academics, and more making recommendations on effective police oversight, some of which are general recommendations and others specific to Portland. There are actually a few in the reference materials for today's meeting, and the subcommittee will begin condensing that down to suggest items for the full PAC to consider in future phases of work.
Thank you so much, Samir. All right, so here on the slide, you'll see brainstorming from and since April 26th full commission meeting. So we collected some suggestions during the April 26th full PAC meeting, which was the first full PAC meeting of this phase of work, and had other suggestions emailed in after the meeting for where we should start. And we'll take more suggestions today to include on these lists, but this is what's already on the table. This is what's already on the roster and has already been suggested. So we'll just give you a moment to look over that.
Great. So next on the agenda is to move into round robin discussions, which is a brainstorming tool that the commission uses to give everyone an opportunity to speak once on the question. So just as a reminder, when it is your turn, please speak for no more than 2 minutes. Please allow me or Dr. Moses, when she comes back, to facilitate and keep the conversation moving, and also keep it abiding by your community agreements and internal processes. And please be forward-looking about this list and what would help the subcommittee and PAC achieve their goals. You can pass if you prefer to as well. We'll just go around for each question and ask folks what they think, and then move on to the next person. So the first question is, are there any additional jurisdictions, additional to the 7 that were on the previous list, that the subcommittee should look into? Would anyone like to start us off there?
I hadn't seen anybody speak up, so I do know that I have been on, I have been hearing a lot of news about Minneapolis, but I don't have anything solid related to Minneapolis, and I don't know if it's been part of any previous conversations, but I could look into Minneapolis and see. I know that they also had. I'm sure everybody on this committee can tell me more about what what they voted in, but it seemed like they had voted in some sort of accountability type of piece of the government, and I would like to know how it worked out for them.
Great. Who would like to go next?
Hi, Samir, I'm back. Thank you so much for holding space for me as my internet crashed and burned. So Thank you so much. Thank you, Angie, for that. Commissioner Angie, for that suggestion. Since this is a round robin, I'm going to go ahead and call on people and then come back. You can pass, of course, and then I can come back to you if you like. So I'm going to go to Commissioner Dan.
Thank you. I brainstormed a lot of the cities that are already on the list. My feeling is that as we talk to people in the cities on the list, I'm hoping we can talk to them and say, is there another city you think we should look at as we're doing this research? I think I've looked through the introduction of this NACOLE. People do say NACOL. I try not to do that with acronyms, you know. But the document that was posted for research purposes, and they mentioned looking at best fit instead of best practices. And I know we use the word best practices in our foundational documents, but I think that's what we've been saying here in Portland for many, many years, that you can't just take somebody else's oversight board and plop it in here. You know, we have to see what works best here in Portland. So that, to me, that's the most important thing, regardless of what cities we talk to or anything that we add to the list.
Thank you, Commissioner Dan. So you're suggesting kind of a snowball, having, as we talk, as you do the research, ask what is the next jurisdiction we should go and talk to, and then you brought it best fit. So thank you very, very much. Commissioner Lavisa.
Thank you so much. I don't have any additions to the list that we've brainstormed so far already. I do want to second what Commissioner Handelman said about best fit. I also saw that in the NACOLE. See, it just takes a very long time to say it that way. Report. I do appreciate that, considering best fit, not just best practice.
Beautiful, thank you. Commissioner Monica, I saw that you had your hand up earlier, I believe.
Yes, thank you. I was wondering if, and so sorry I'm late. I was still seeing patients until about 5 minutes ago. So I was wondering if there are certain organizations that are that work with like community advocates that work in this topic that would have a really good idea of suggestions that they think would make this situation easier. What laws, what bylaws, what kinds of changes systemically would be helpful, like in general for an accountability system. People that work in the NAACP or people that, you know, advocates for the community that work in this issue.
Thank you so much. Let's see, Commissioner Faith.
Hi, Christine. I'm actually just observing this evening. So thank you, but I will pass.
Very good. Commissioner Sophia, you just came back in, I believe. Do you know the question on the table? You're on mute.
All righty. Sorry. Yes, I do know the question. And I did want to reiterate or expound on something that Monica said. I am talking with a group within NAACP, and there is someone that they have suggested that I speak to, because I told them I was looking for some research and on that. So I'm looking into that this week. I just got that. So I will be able to provide some, at least some names to bring to the group. And also to add to that, I know there were some studies, I think it was the Washington Post? I can't remember which newspaper. They did some really good research on policing. And I wanted to get back to that as well and formalize that. In addition to that, just recently, I heard a segment on National Public Radio about policing, and they were talking about gender. And there was 2 or 3 cities that they had mentioned. They talked to the police chiefs there. And I'm sorry that I hadn't written it down for the meeting yet, but I will be working on getting that to the group so the group can review it as well. I'll send that in an email. But thank you.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Jason. I'd like to add. Oh gosh. You made it, girl. Sorry. Very good. Okay, I'm getting direction of who's on the committee, and so my bad for calling outside people into the conversation. So I apologize. So the question was, let's see, what was the question? The question was, are there any other experts that we should also, or academics within or outside of Portland that you would like to add to the list? If we don't mind going back to the list, we had those 2 experts on the list. Any additions to the experts and academics? Commissioner Dan, and then Commissioner Debbie.
Well, Debbie hasn't, I think, weighed in yet, so I'm going to step aside if you want to go first.
Oh, you could feel free to go first. I'm not in a hurry.
Okay, thanks. You know, as a activist in this community, when we were first starting to study this oversight issue, which was 1992, one of the groups we looked to was the ACLU, which has a chapter in Oregon, here in Portland. They have very active, but also the national is involved in police oversight issues. So I would add them to the list for sure. I think I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Debbie.
So this is a memory that I could be wrong about, but when this ballot measure was under development, I feel like I remember that Commissioner Hardesty brought some people in from someplace else, from a group called Campaign Zero. And let's ask Commissioner Handelman if they are related to police oversight or if it's an entirely different issue. And then a second thing that I will dig up, both my husband and daughter heard some podcast from some academic that they were just both individually very impressed with and told me I really needed to listen to it. And so I'll find out whose name that is and send it into the group.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I think Commissioner May had their hand raised, and then I'll go to you, Commissioner Monica.
Oh, I was just gonna go out on a limb and say that, in this work, we typically always look for the same circle of people. And I think in an effort to be more inclusive, we should also include those organizations that work more with the grassroots people of the community. Those are the people that are often that do not have a voice or unheard, do not have opportunities much to engage. And I would really like to see if, when we're reaching out to these other partners, that we're also asking them for just different groups of people that aren't typically included.
Oh, I'm sorry, Christine, you're muted, so I didn't hear it.
I'm muted. I'm
so sorry, and I was waiting to be called. For those of them that have been working on this topic for longer, is there a chance that we could learn from cities that have done this poorly? And should we look at places that have done a terrible job at this, and what exactly were the terrible things that happened and what we want to make sure doesn't happen here? I believe New Orleans was one of them, or I may be wrong.
So we want to, you're suggesting to learn from things that have gone wrong. in the
Right.
past, From
Right.
other commission or from
Mhm.
other jurisdictions.
Because there may be some things that have been tried and have gone so badly that we certainly want to make sure we don't do. Of course, that may be the entire country, but I'm not sure.
Yes. We'll find out. I don't know. Thank you so much. Commissioner Sophia. And yeah, there you go.
I wanted to, I don't remember who was speaking. I don't know if that was May. I can't remember who was speaking before Monica, but I do believe the Pacific Northwest Family Circle has been listed as one of those grassroots local organizations that has a lot of the group does a lot of research on their own for justice. So I think that would be a good source as well.
Forgive me for saying this, but I feel like sometimes looking in the academic circle, it's a different type of expertise and experience knowledge that they bring to the table than those with the practical knowledge, with the lived experience that we're not capturing. And those are the people that I feel are often left out and who are more vulnerable and susceptible to just kind of some of the injustices that people do face with the system.
Thank you so much, Commissioner May. Commissioner Sophia, and then Commissioner Handelman.
Oh, I think I was still up. My hand was still up from last time.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Dan.
So going to the question of where things crashed and burned, what the previous Minneapolis Review Board ran into was that they would make recommendations to the chief about sustaining findings against officers, and it wouldn't happen. And that's one of the things I keep bringing up as I asked the mayor how we can avoid that happening here. So maybe we can learn from them why that went wrong, kind of thing. I think it would be good for us, if possible. I mean, we're trying to do this in the next month and a half. But when we're talking to the people who are parts of these review boards or part of the city infrastructure or the community members who are on those boards, to also ask the community members in those cities what they think, so that we're getting a more full picture about what's actually going on. I agree with that. I'm a little confused how we're going to separate our outreach efforts in this research subcommittee from the community engagement subcommittee, because I think that there's some of what we're talking about too is going to be happening in that subcommittee. So maybe somebody can help give us some guidance so that we're not duplicating effort, and also maybe we can stay more focused if that's the realm of what the other subcommittee is already doing. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I was going to begin to try and address that. So thank you, Commissioner Dan, is that there are two separate things going on at the very same time. Community engagement, which is around grassroots, which is around reaching out to the communities who have been historically and currently minoritized, as well as the research group, which is, yes, what has happened in the past, what did work, what didn't work, why do we think that didn't work? And so you're going to have two tracks going at the same time to be able to converge to make your recommendations at the end. And so I think I want to make sure that that statement is correct with the commission, with the co-chairs. So Commissioner Lavisa, if you would like to jump in and
Well, sure.
clarify if I said
Sure.
anything wrong.
I think, yeah, I think I just want to, yeah, kind of clarify that the community engagement events subcommittee will be doing a lot of outreach, but I think that the research subcommittee is primarily like document based and like looking at reports, maybe looking at meta analyses. It's I'm not to say that we can't do outreach and that we can't, you know, find amazing experts who we could invite to come speak maybe to the full PAC. I think that honestly could be a really helpful thing that we could do, but I think that that's somewhat um, incidental or somewhat secondary to like our main objectives that were established for the subcommittee, which were to create documents basically that are areas of agreement documents that where hopefully we've sort of surveyed a lot of different jurisdictions, taken a look at what they're doing that is working, taken a look at recommendations from a lot of experts, and come to some areas of agreement that we would like to refer to the full PAC. So I hope that that clarifies a little bit.
Commissioner Monica.
I think there's two things that stuck out to me in the last couple of meetings. One of them, Sophia, you said a few meetings ago that even in the military, if you you know, if there is an accident, if there is a death, or if there is, you know, if there is misbehavior, that you are that you could be disciplined very harshly, and that it seems like in our system that is very hard to achieve as a police officer, right? So is there an opportunity to not necessarily model, because in, you know, in the Army and the military, there's also issues with accountability in many ways, but there's also a model that they're using for you know, deadly force when it's inappropriate and things like that. So we may be able to borrow something from there in the basis of service, and, you know, in that way. The other thing that was jumping out at me frequently was the fact that our entire accountability system is based on volunteers and unpaid work and very little resources. And is there a model out there where the city employs an accountability commission to do this work, and they are dedicated to doing this work, and they're paid and they're benefited and they're, you know, employees of the city to do this work? And is there a model of that sort somewhere that we could look at?
Beautiful question. Thank you so much, Commissioner Monica. Commissioner Lavisa.
Sure. Well, I think this is, yeah, appropriate to this conversation. Just responding to Monica's question just now. In the NACOLE report, that was the pre-read, or one of the pre-reads for this. There is I was just looking through it, and there's some really great information in there. But one of the things that they do is they give kind of a brief overview, kind of a history of police oversight in the United States, and kind of the evolution of it. And there have kind of been generations of it. I didn't realize this until reading the report, but they sort of break down oversight systems into approximately like 3 different models, really. Like there's a review model where the police do the investigation, and then civilians or a board review what was already done. And then there's a investigation model where there's a more empowered a board or agency that does a full investigation. And then there's like an auditor model, which I don't know a ton about, but it seems like it's very focused on like statistics and data and like making recommendations. It's I think that's the most recent one. But some examples that they gave of investigative boards that are like actually like fully funded boards and have powers is they gave the examples of Berkeley, California, and San Francisco, California as a couple of those. So I think that's an interesting question kind of to bring up, is like what types of oversight systems do we want to be focusing our research on? And I mean, we already have in IPR, we already have a review type system kind of paired with, or sorry, we already have an investigative system kind of paired with a review system in CRC. So if anybody here has more thoughts about kind of the way our current systems work together versus what we're moving towards, I would love to hear that.
So Commissioner Debbie?
I think one thing we should keep in mind, though, is that we are constrained by the ballot measure and the charter language. I mean, it really lays out the type of system we're going to have, which is, independent investigation, independent of the city, really, because the community board will be the decider as far as like hiring the director. And so I just, again, I think we run down too many paths looking at a lot of oversight systems that aren't the kind we're going to have. You know what I mean? Because it's already been predetermined by the voters.
Thank you.
There's lots of variation within that. I'm not saying that it's like, that we're set in stone, but parts of it are set in stone. And then, but there's a whole lot of different things we're gonna have to figure out. Like one that just came up was, is it better to have community members being sort of the governing body, or is it better to have paid people do it? And, so those are kind of choices that we will have to think about and decide what we want to recommend in the end.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Sophia.
Yes, I was, as everyone was talking, I was thinking of a couple other examples. I know that Columbus, Ohio has had a lot of work done on policing, and also I think it's the Dallas or Fort Worth, or I don't know if they're together. They're working on creating a police accountability commission as well, or committee. And so maybe we would like to talk with them and see what they've come up with so far, and see if they have any other information to offer us as well.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Lavisa.
Okay, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Debbie. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to muddy the waters by bringing up all the different types of systems there are out there. I was actually hoping to kind of clarify, like, so what we have right now is technically we have an investigative system, but what we will be moving to is a much stronger investigative system, is my reading of the ballot measure, because we will be moving to an investigative system that has disciplinary powers. And that's really that's a fundamental change.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Deanne.
Yes, in Los Angeles, they have community members who are a police commission. I don't think they hear individual cases, though. I think they sort of talk about the budget and some policy issues and things like that. And I'm really not even clear whether they're paid or not. But I think this is one of the things that Commissioner Glenn brought up at the last meeting, the idea that, I wonder if we have board members who are hiring the staff, reviewing all these cases of misconduct, deliberating, deciding what the punishment is going to be for the officers, if they're going to have enough time, if there's a way to get them off of work like as though they were on a jury. I like that idea very much. And I want to see if there's any jurisdictions that have an answer to that, so that we're not professionalizing the board per se. So this doesn't become their full-time job, because then that stops them from being community members anymore. But it also doesn't, make it impossible for anybody but a retiree to do it, or a really rich person, I guess.
Thank you very, very much. So I'm wondering how you want to begin to divide up the work. Who wants to take what research? Is that where we want to go, Commissioner Lavisa?
So yes, sure. All right. So I think as I mentioned, we're looking at the schedule, and it looks like this subcommittee will meet. Well, wait a second. Sorry. I think we might be skipping ahead, Dr. Moses. I'm not quite sure. Hold on.
Yes, I might be taking us out of order, so I would like for staff to weigh in, please.
Yeah, later in today's agenda is next steps, which is, I think, the exact question that you just posed, Dr. Moses.
Great. All right, beautiful. Are there any other additions that we would want to make, whether in jurisdictions or academia, that you would want to add to this list before we move on to the other part of the meeting? Commissioner Lavisa.
Sure. I read a report that was authored by an attorney on behalf of the city of Portland, like maybe 10 years ago, and I cannot remember her name. It was a woman, and she did a really extensive report. She interviewed people for like 6 months, and she made a ton of recommendations. I don't know how many of those recommendations were ever implemented, but I really enjoyed reading her report, and I cannot remember her name. So I was going to ask in this meeting, does anybody remember the person who I'm talking about or the report, so that we could refer to it?
Go ahead, Commissioner Dan.
Yes, you're talking about Eileen Luna Firebaugh. She was actually the main staff person at the Berkeley Review Board for a long time, and then for a couple other review boards, and then she became a consultant, and she was hired here. I think I might have mentioned this before, but maybe not, that when the IPR was first created in 2001, the community was upset that it wasn't strong enough, and we were told by City Council, oh, we'll get back to you in a year and see how it's going. And then they hired Dr. Luna Firebaugh in 2007, and her report came out in 2008. So it took 6 years for them to get around to doing a study. And that's what that was, a review of how the IPR and CRC were going. And we probably have, Portland Cop Watch probably has an analysis of how many of those recommendations ever got implemented or not, or at least from around the time that happened. But some of them are ongoing that keep getting brought up over and over again because they're good ideas that were never implemented. So it's definitely worth taking a look at that study.
And we're going to get there this evening. We're going to bring that back. We're going to bring that up this evening as things that have been suggested in the past that now we should look at in the present that could really help this commission. Any other thoughts? And staff has put that report into the chat. If there are, oh, Commissioner Debbie.
I'm not sure if we're talking about publications, but if we are, some months ago, Jared Hager from the U.S. Department of Justice sent a book, by electronically, a booklet to me that was recently published through that COPS grant program that they have at the federal level. And it's all about, police oversight systems. And it was just published last year. So the material is fresh. And I sent it to Samir, Lavisa, and I guess our 3 co-chairs. So I think it'd be great to make that available to people. I've read parts of it and I found it really helpful. So I think it's one place to take a good look.
Thank you so much. Any other thoughts before we go to break? And staff have put that into the COPS report referred to by Commissioner Debbie, have put that into the chat so we can access that there. Commissioner Sophia, your hand is it, do you want to? Okay, you can put your hand down. Okay, very good. Just wanted to check in. All right, so let's take a 10-minute break. Let's come back at 8 o'clock. Thank you for this beautiful conversation.